Hello and welcome to this third exploring session on Clyomon and Clamydes, or the two valiant knights, or Sir Clyomon, Knight of the Golden Shield, or etc., etc., etc. A play plagued, I think it's fair to say, with not the best series of potential titles in the universe, which perhaps has slightly depressed its value on the play-going market in modern times. However, we so far have been having a ball with this quest narrative. Shall we call it a quest? To find the dragon's treasure. No, that's through the dragon's eye. That's a reference that some people just went over their heads there. That's fine. Having rather disappointingly not had a flying serpent last time, we're going to see whether we get a kidnapping today. All sorts of things are going on. We've got two love stories going on. We've got quests going on. We've got everybody's late for a fight that frankly nobody else except them knows about, so it's sort of weird. Yeah, we're sort of wondering when Alexander the Great's going to turn up again. He got a scene earlier. Will he get back to Macedon? Who knows? Anything is possible in the next 2 hours. So, without further ado, the people who are exploring this third part today are reading The Night is...
Hello, I'm Francis Cox. I'm an actor coming at you from Amsterdam.
And reading one of the titled knights, Sir Clyomon today is...
Clyomon, hi, I'm Lynn. I'm a teacher living in the Northwest United States.
And the other Sir Clamydes, by hook or by crook, is...
Hi, I'm Lois Potter. I used to teach English literature and I live in London.
And the love interest of one of them, I can't remember which, Neronis today is read by...
Hello, Dan, actor in Montpellier, France.
And the person potentially trying to kidnap her because he sort of loves her as well. King Thrasellus today is played by...
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm also living in London.
And playing the personification of, or just the name of, Providence today is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I'm an actor. I am usually based in London, currently in Germany.
And reading today, Rumour is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian and I'm in Yorkshire.
And reading today, Corin is...
Aliki, Chapple. I'm an actor, translator and theatre maker based in Lancashire.
And reading, at least for a time, the part of Shift. Shift number 1 will be...
Hi, I'm Sarah Blake. I'm an actor, writer and director, and I apologise for the gloom. It's very hot and sunny here and I have the shutters down.
And taking up the mantle of Shift later on in the session will be...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott. I'm not an actor, I'm not an academic, but I am quite used to doing the late shift.
And I am your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and generally moving things along. Have I missed anyone out? I don't see anyone deeply offended at my forgetting that they existed. That's always the way I like to start a session. So we have reached scene 14, or potentially 14. There's a scene earlier that I kind of think should actually be counted as 1, but that's a future problem for future Robert. For the moment, we're looking at scene 14, which features the entrance of Clyomon with a knight, signifying one of those who we saw earlier that Clamydes had delivered from sleepiness, I think is perhaps the way of putting it. Okay, enter Clyomon and knight.
Sir Knight, of truth, this fortune is most luckily assigned, that we should meet and travel thus, for thereby, to my mind, you have a castle of comfort brought, in that you have me told, Clamydes are appointed day no more than I did hold.
No, certes, sir, he kept not day the cause I have expressed. Through that enchanter Bryan's charms, he came full sore distressed. Yet fortune favoured so his state, that through his help all we, which captives were through cowardly craft, from bondage were set free. And at our parting willed us, in any with you met, we should inform you with the truth. what was his only let.
Well, know you where he abideth now, Sir Knight? I crave of courtesy.
No questionless, I know not I, to say it of a certainty.
Well then, adieu, Sir Knight. With thanks, I let you on your way.
Unto the gods I you commit, naught else I have to say.
And the knight, at some point, possibly in a moment, exits.
Ah, sirrah, now the huge heaps of cares that lodged in my mind is scaled from their nesting place, and pleasure passage find. For that as well as Clyomon and Clamydes broke his day, upon which news my passage now in seeking him I'll stay. And to Neronis back again my joyful journey make, lest that she should in absence mine some cause of sorrow take. And now all dumps of deadly dole that daunted knightly breast, adieu, since salve of solace sweet hath sorrows all suppressed. For that Clamydes cannot brag nor me accuse of aught unto the gods of destinies, that thus our fates have brought in equal balance to be weighed. Due praises shall I send, that thus to weigh each cause aright, their eyes to earth did bend. Well, to keep my day with lady now, I mind not to be slack. Wherefore unto Petronius' court I'll dress my journey back. But stay, methinks I Rumour here throughout this land to ring. I will attend his talk to know what tidings he doth bring.
And enter Rumour running.
Ye rolling clouds, give Rumour room, both air and earth below, by sea and land, that every ear may understand and know what woeful hap is chanced now within the Isle of Late, which of strange marshes beareth name unto the noblest state, Neronis, daughter to the king. By the king of Norway he, within a ship of merchandise, conveyed away is she. The king with sorrow for her sake hath to death resigned, and having left his queen with child to guide the realm behind, Mustantis, brother to the king, from her the crown would take. But till she be delivered, the lords did order make, that they before King Alexander thither coming should appeal, and he by whom they hold the crown therein should rightly deal for either part, Lo, this to tell I Rumour have in charge, and through all the lands I do pretend to publish it at large.
And exit Rumour.
Oh, woeful Rumour ranging thus, what tidings do I hear? Hath that false king of Norway stolen my love and lady dear? Ah, heart, ah, hand, ah, head and mind, and every sense beside, to serve your masters, turn in need, do every one provide. For till that I revenged be upon that wretched king, and have again my lady dear, and her from Norway bring, I vow this body takes no rest. Ah, fickle fortune, fickle dame, thou canst make glad, and so soon sad, a knight of worthy fame. But what should I delay the time, now that my dear is gone? Availeth aught to ease my grief, to make this pensive moan? No, no, wherefore come courage to my heart, and happy hands prepare. For of that wretched king I will wreak my sorrow and care, and maugre all the might he may be able for to make. By force of arms my lady I from him and his will take.
And exit Clyomon. But stay, methinks I hear exposition entering from stage left. I mean, it's such an interesting scene. This scene is all about just catching up on the news of what's going on. First, you get the knight going, "All right, this thing's been happening over here on the other side of the plot, just so you know." And then this sort of expands on this, and there's the entrance of Rumour. I mean, what a scene! What a scene! Thoughts from the room, people. Francis.
Well, we've now got a palace intrigue added to this peculiar mix. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like all these people we've possibly forgotten about. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's been a while since we've met some of these people. I mean, the kidnapping thing has obviously happened. We didn't get that scene. Oh well.
And now there's a tussle for the crown of Denmark, is it, or Norway? I can't remember which one.
No, it's the island of strange marshes.
Yes, of course, sorry.
Yes, don't forget the island of strange marshes. Very important place.
Nobody forgets the.
Of course, we don't know how accurate Rumour is. Rumour seems to be potentially quite accurate here. It's an interesting point. Lois, I saw a hand.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's very odd to find Rumour giving an accurate account of everything that's happened. That's not what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Alan.
I'm just wondering whether this is a sign of the interval immediately preceded that scene, because you're getting that resume of the story so far.
I don't know that we're necessarily in a convention where we need intervals. I think it's definitely following on from that previous scene. We've got enough of a gap with the night to break up the "and now she's been kidnapped" moment. Yeah, it's interesting. People filling in gaps. Tamara, are you waving or just holding your pen?
No,
fitfully?
I was waving. There was a bit of a recap yesterday as well, which I found really helpful because I wasn't there for the first session. But I feel like the play just seems to do that. In case you weren't listening for a bit or went out to get popcorn, this is where we're at right now.
Yeah, for a time with potentially a lot of selective inattention. If this is a touring show or something more designed originally for a more of a tavern setting, then the probability that people have gone off and got very, very drunk in a corner and need a recap is perhaps higher. That might be a total calumny, by the way, of the difference between an actual playhouse and earlier versions. Aliki first. I see many hands.
Just we talked about how much plot there is in this play before, how very cleverly it's constructed so that a great deal happens. And maybe that's just why there's so much going on. There's enough story for 3 plays so far. We're only halfway through.
Lois.
Yes, I mean, in fact, what Rumour is describing is not something that we could have seen but weren't paying attention to. I mean, it's all happened between the scenes. We didn't know anything about the king's brother, for example. And this, as far as I know, this is the first we've heard of him. And the fact that the queen was pregnant and that they're waiting to see who the child is going to turn out to be. And I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. It's packed into a very small space here.
Yeah, I mean, I presumably, I have no idea, that some of these things will get a deeper exposition later on. I mean, we've had a few plays like this where you'll get a passing reference to a future event and a future thing that will get explicated better later, just to sort of set it up that stuff's going on and how much you need to have taken in of what Rumour said here. 50% of it we already knew. It was set up in the previous scene. The other half, hopefully that will be expanded upon or just forgotten about. Who knows? I don't know. Sarah.
Yeah, I said in the chat that I'm glad Clyomon finally has a quest, because he's been a knight without a quest, really, up until this
Knight without portfolio.
Yes, exactly. And now he finally has a quest. But I am slightly amused to think that actually Clamydes might come along and steal his quest, because he seems to be the one who gathers all the quests. So I have a feeling Clyomon might set off to rescue Neronis, and Clamydes just might just beat him to it and go, oh yeah, I got her for you, here she is, I just fitted this one in between the other 3 quests.
Yeah, it's got to be said that Clamydes is the one with the to-do list, isn't it? He's really got that going on. I think it's on the other side of the shield. On the inside of the shield, he's got a tick list.
Oh yeah, to do.
That would be really funny, and we should do that.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
Or just a little rolls out of it. A little scroll comes out the bottom. Stop milk, pay paper, kill dragon.
I mean, he's on his way back to Juliana, isn't he, at this point?
Yes, theoretically.
He is, yes.
Yeah. Yes. About to apologize to her for not having the serpent's head with him.
Yeah. Fail.
We was
fail.
robbed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was, quite literally.
Right. Okay. Any additional new thoughts from this scene? No. Okay. Let's move on to scene 15. It's relatively short. We get a bit of shift. Enjoy this shift because I think this is your only shift appearance before we swap to a different shift.
Okay.
So enter Clamydes and shift with his bag of money still.
Knowledge. Thou art much to blame thus for to load thyself, to make thee on thy way diseased with carrying of that elf. But now take courage unto thee, for to that isle I will, which of strange marshes called is. For fame declareth still, the Knight of the Golden Shield is there, and in the court abideth. Thither will I him to meet, whatsoever me betideth, and know his name, as thou canst tell my father chargeth thee, or else no more his princely court nor person for to see. Come, therefore, that unto that isle we may our journey take, and afterwards, having met with him, our voyage for to make to Denmark, to my lady there, to show her all my case, and then to Swabia, if her I have, unto my father's grace.
Nay, but aunt shall please you. Are you sure the Knight of the Golden Shield in the Isle of Strange Marshes is?
I was informed credibly. I warrant thee we shall not miss.
Then keep you on your way. I'll follow as fast as I can. Faith, he even means to make a martyr of poor Shift, his man. And I am so tied to this bag of gold I got at Bryan's Saint-Foy that I tell you, where this is, there all my joy is. But I am so weary, sometimes with riding, sometimes with running, and other times going afoot, that when I came to my lodging at night, to bring me a woman, it is no boot. And such care I take for this pelf, lest I should it lose, that where I come, that it is gold for my life I dare not disclose. Well, after my master I must. There's nothing still but running and riding, but I'll give him the slip, sure, if once I come where I may have quiet biding.
Oh, and the scene was so short I even missed the ending. So pause there, the end of that little scene. I love the way that Shift asks the question, are you sure he's going to be there? Does anyone know where anything is? Says Shift.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was actually someone saying something, although that was just strange noises. Who knows? Okay. So yeah, it's Shift. You've still got your money. You still get your money. Any other thoughts about this short little scenette? Alan?
It was Elizabeth who was talking, but inaudibly.
But anyway, about the scene, any thoughts? Helen?
Yeah, I was totally wrong about what Clamydes is up to. He's not going back to Juliana at all. He's first going to find Clyomon, and then he's going back to Denmark, and then he's going to Swabia.
Yeah.
Poor old Shift has got a long journey ahead of him. I love the way it rhymes Bryan Saint-Foy's with my joy is.
Oh, but poor Shift, he's just not getting a break, is he? Because, all that looting, it's really heavy going trying to get it home, isn't it? Especially if you're not even going directly home. It's awful. Alan?
And the posh boy can't see why one of the lower orders wants money.
That much money. I mean, it's an awful lot.
Yeah. I'll give him the slipshore. So, you know, will he be his master for much longer? Who knows? Is he really his master? Of course he's not. Any additional thoughts?
He's there's the question of morality here.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came to my lodging at night to bring me a woman, it is no boot. I mean, that's rude.
It's a very frugal existence being a knight. Being or the servant of a knight.
Well, he's too knackered to make love, is what he's saying. Awful for him. I don't know how he survives.
Yeah.
You're saying Shift is an incel.
I don't think that's what he's saying at all.
Okay. Stretching here. Theo is stretching. It's a short scene. I think we've got its bearing, as it were. Any additional thoughts before we go into scene 16? No. Okay, let's go to scene 16. So enter Neronis in the forest in man's apparel.
As hare the hound, as lamb the wolf, as fowl the falcon's dint, so do I fly from tyrant he, whose heart more hard than flint, hath sacked on me such huge heaps of ceaseless sorrows here, that sure it is intolerable, the torments that I bear. Neronis, who knoweth thee, a princess to be born, since fatal gods so frowardly thy fortune doth adorn. Neronis, who knoweth her, in painful pages show, but no good lady will me blame, which of me my case doth know. But rather, when they hear the truth, wherefore I am disguised, they'll say it is an honest shift, the which I have devised, since I have given my faith and troth to such brute of fame as is the knight of the golden shield, and tyrants seek to frame their engines to detract our vows, as the king of Norway hath, who of all princes living now, I find devoid of faith. For like a wolf in lamb's skin clad, he cometh with his aid all merchant-like to father's court, and getteth to persuade that he had precious jewels bought, which in his ship did lie, whereof he willed me take my choice, if case I would them buy. Then, I mistrusting no deceit, with handmaids one or two, with this deceitful merchant then, unto this ship the ship did go. No sooner were we under hatch, but up they hoist their sail, and having then to serve their turn a merry western gale, we were lashed out from the heaven, lo, 12 leagues and more, when still I thought the bark had been at anchor by the shore. But being brought by Norway here, not long in court I was, but that to get from thence away, I brought this feat to pass. For making semblance unto him as though I did him love, he gave me liberty, or aught that served for my behove. And having liberty, I wrought by such a secret sleight, that in this tire, like to a page, I skept away by night. I fear that by pursuit he will me overtake. Well, here entereth one to whom some suit for service I will make.
For indeed, here enter Corin, a shepherd.
Bones! Turn in that sheep there, and you'll be good fellows. Jeez, I champerade. Cheva, chur here, and were my fellow, ja must him consuade, and yet, and cha should kiss. Look you of the arse, cha must run myself and chill. And cha should entreat him with my cap in my hand, he would stand still. But it's a world to see what merry lives we shepherds lead. Why, we're gentlemen, and we get once a thorn bush over our head, we may sleep with our faces against the zone. And we're hogs bathe ourselves, stretch out our legs, and 'twere a kennel of dogs. And then at night when maids do come to milking, the games begin. But I may say to you, my neighbour, hog's maid hath a clap. Ha, ha, let them laugh that win, eh? Chap but one daughter, But should not our vorty pen she were so sped, chum as I do you, she looks every night to go to bed, but 'tis no matter. The whores be so whiskish when they are under a bush that they're never satisfied till their bellies be flush. Oh, chum will be abroad my flocks, as the vengeance wolves couch on lamb. Oh, my cursing soul, they'll steal and just stand by, they're not near fair to the dam.
Well, to escape the pursuit of the king, of this same shepherd here, suspicion wholly to avoid, for service I'll inquire. Well, met, good father, for your use, a servant do you lack?
What? Will you not flout an old man, you courting old Jack?
No, truly, father, I flout you not. Why ask I would have.
Gold's bones thee least. Serve a shepherd and be so brave. You could not crack ropes, would be hanged. You do nothing now and then, but come up and down the country thus to flout poor men. Go to, good man, boy, if no service were no such flouting Jack as you be.
Father, I think as I speak. Upon my faith and troth, believe me, I will willingly serve you, if in case you will take me.
Dost not mock?
No, truly, father.
Then come with me, by God's bones, I'll never forsake thee. Oh, bones of my soul, thou wilt be the bravest shepherd boy in our town. Thou goest to church in this coat before Madge's Sunday in her grey gown. Look how our church wardens will look upon thee, bones. They won't be more looking at thee than our Sir John the parish priest. Everybody will ask whose boy thou art, and shall tell thee this, by the way, thou shalt have all the fairest wenches of our town in the fields for to play. There's neighbour Nicholas' daughter, a jolly smug whore with bad cheeks, and neighbour Udge's maid. Oh, men along with her, she have eaten set leeks. But there's Frumpton's wench in the free sack. Oh, it'll go do thee good to see what canvas it is at the milking time between her and me. And those wenches will love thee vulnerably in every place, but do not fall with them in any kind of case.
Hush, you shall not need to fear me. I can be merry with measure as well as they.
Well then, come fellow after me, and home shall lead thee the way.
Alas, poor simple shepherd, by this princess may see that like man, like talk in every degree.
And exit Neronis with Corin, who's been doing all those sexual innuendos about, you're going to find all those lovely great men to have, you're going to have fun with all these people. Oh, the irony. Oh, the irony. All my sides were splitting. Well done, by the way, Aliki.
I think there's several different accents there.
We've done quite a few of these mama sets, and I think looking at that one, that's one of the hardest, actually. It's really dense with it. It's even denser than the one we did the other week. So, you did very well there. But all the cliches are there. They've got all the ticking pots, and it reminds me of several other shepherds or similar characters. No Colin, of course. No Colin. Poor Colin. We remember thee. Died too young. Died too young. Anyway. Thoughts about the scene. Neronis. Sorry. Is that Elizabeth speaking there? No, obviously not. We're just getting something that sounds like a sound artifact. So I was just wondering who that was. Okay, Neronis has escaped from her situation, filled us in with some backstory. How did you feel, or how did the room feel about her in her plan, her cunning plan?
Well, she's been very cunning up to date, and that an enormous amount has happened.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been kidnapped. She's been taken to the guys to the court. She's then lulled him into a sense of false security, got hold of boys' clothing, and escaped. I mean, this is a whole play.
Yeah, without any assistance from anybody else either. Just off her own bat, out she goes.
Well, she had. She mentioned she had 2 serving maids with her, so I'm assuming they helped her with her page's garb.
Yeah.
Well, we did meet them earlier. They never said anything, it should be
No,
pointed out, but they were in the scene.
Yeah.
Who else wants to jump in?
The siblings didn't escape with her. Either they decided they liked it, the thing, what's its court, or they've been killed, or anyway, they don't count, do they?
She doesn't even know how many, with handmaids 1 or 2. I mean, they're so unimportant, she can't count.
Disposable.
But yeah, that's not to her credit, really, is it? You know, you were there. You're the only witness to this event. Could you please give us a number? We can't contradict you.
Yeah.
We need the handmaid's tale for this, don't we? Not that one. Yeah, and then I say we get comedy hijinks with Corin there. Language aside, any thoughts?
I still don't know what that last line in that speech was meant to say.
Whose speech?
Corin's.
Don't fall in with them.
The war by my cursed soul.
For by my cursed soul that will steal and shall stand by. They're not afeared of the dam of the
Yes, the wolves aren't afraid of the sheep.
Yeah.
That's an odd thing to say.
Well, the wolf, you see, is going to take the lamb unless he intervenes, because the wolf isn't afraid of the sheep who is protecting the lamb.
Mm.
I mean, it's what you said, it's really underlining look, it's actually a princess dressed as a boy. Ha, ha, ha. No, she's not going to be sporting with the maids. It feels a bit heavy-handed, but...
Yes, it's it's playing that gag for all it's worth, isn't it? Lois.
Yeah, I just wonder about her last line. In fact, like man, like talk in every degree. Does she mean, all men are disgusting?
That's what I took it to mean.
Yeah, I think that's fair. There's something about that line that seems slightly cockeyed. There's something slightly out of it that needs to be put back in or something. It doesn't feel like a complete line.
Well, I wonder if she's saying just men like to hear the sound of their own voices.
Mm.
Men like talk.
I mean, men being alike, talk alike.
Men like talk in every degree.
No, men talk the same way.
Yeah, I understand.
Men are all alike and they all talk the same way in every degree. So not only is this shepherd vulgar and full of sexual innuendo, so was the king.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Which we've only met once, but we're about to meet again in a moment. Other thoughts before we do that? Anyone else want to leap in? Tamara, you're unmuted. It looks like you want to say something.
I'm hoping that the fact that she remembered to dress up as a boy and run away works out for her.
Mm. We can only hope. It feels like this could be the beginning of a wonderful convention. Elizabeth, do you have any thoughts?
I thought that Aliki did Corin beautifully. I think she really did his essence. She captured the essence of Corin, and I quite like the way Corin came in. It reminded me of when Neronis came in yesterday and brought a breath of fresh air into the narrative. I think Corin's done that today.
Mm. Excellent. Ringing the changes a bit with another character, just giving the player a bit of air to breathe. Yes, I like that. Okay, let's move on, because we're going to see more of him. He will be back. Lucky Aliki. But we're also returning to Thrasellus, King of Norway, as well, who enters with 2 lords.
My lords, pursue her speedily. hurriedly. She cannot far be gone. And himself to seek her out. Your king, he will be won. Ah, fraudulent dame, how hath she glozed for me to get away? With sugared words, how hath she fed my senses night and day? Professing love with outward shows, and inwardly her heart to practice such a deep deceit, whereby she might depart from my court so suddenly, when I did wholly judge, she loved me most entirely, and not against me grudge. She made such signs by outward shows, I blame not wit and policy, but here I may exclaim and say, fie, fie, on women's subtlety. Well, well, my lords, no time delay, pursue her with all speed, and I with Lois will seek out myself as is decreed, with aid of such as are behind, and will come unto thee, and come unto me.
Francis, could you read the two lords' ambo line, please?
Okay. We shall not lack what here in charge to us is given by thee.
And the two lords exit.
Ah, how hast thou me vexed? Through thy crafty dealings, how am I perplexed? Did ever any win a dame and lose her in such sort? The maladies are marvellous, the which I do support. Through her deceit, but forth I will come, I will my company to meet. If ever she be put again, I will her so entreat, that others all shall warning take by such a supple dame, how that a prince for to delude such endings they do frame.
And enter.
Stay, traitor, stay. Oh, sorry.
Enter Clyomon. I'm just going to say the next stage direction after this one is misplaced. It will live after the final line of King Thrasellus. Enter Clyomon, Knight of the Golden Shield. Huzzah!
Ah, nay, traitor, stay, and take with thee that mortal blow or stroke, that which will cause thy wretched corpse to this life for to revoke. It joyeth me at heart that I have met thee in this place.
What violence darest thou be so bold, with words what you obey thy lord and king, what art thou soon declare?
My lord and king, I thee defy, and in despite I dare thee for to say thou art no prince, for thou a traitor art, and what reward is due therefore, to thee I shall impart.
Thou braggest all too boldly still. What height thy name express?
What height my name thou shalt not know, nay will I it confess. But thou that thou my lady stolest from father's court away, I'll sure revenge that traitorous fact upon thy flesh this day, since I have met so luckily with thee here all alone, although as I do understand from thee she now is gone, yet therefore to defend thyself, for here I thee assail.
Alas, poor boy, thinkest thou against me to prevail?
And here let them fight. Fighting happens. Stabby action occurs. King Thrasellus says,
Ah, heavens, Thrasellus, he's slain. Ye gods his ghost receive.
and down he falls dead. Plonk.
Now hast thou justice for thy fact, as thy desert doth crave. But alas, poor Clyomon, though thou thy foe hast slain, such grievous wounds thou hast received as doth increase thy pain. Unless I have some speedy help, my life must needly waste. And then, as well as traitor false, my corpse of death shall taste. Ah, my Neronis, where art thou? Where art thou become? For thy sweet sake thy knight shall here receive his vital doom. Lo, here all gored in blood, thy faithful knight doth lie. For thee, ah, faithful dame, thy knight for lack of help shall die. For thee, ah, here thy Clyomon his mortal stroke hath ta'en, and for thee, these same hands of his, the Norway king hath slain. Ah, bleeding wounds from longer talk my faltering tongue doth stay. If I have not some speedy help, my life doth waste away.
And will he get some speedy help? Will Clyomon survive after this terrifying duel? We'll find out in a moment. We're still mid-scene, but I just want to talk about what's happened before, because boy, is there a wonderful stage direction coming up now. Clymon's turned up to take out King Thrasellus, and it's fine, but she's not there. What's he going to do? It's everybody always arrives when somebody else has left, or something. There's always a complication. The story keeps going. Thoughts about this scene, King Thrasellus. There was who put in the chat him complaining about being put in the friend zone. I think was that Tamara. Oh, it's Aliki. Yeah, he's poor. Well, I say poor. He's obviously a git. He's been outwitted. Thoughts in the room?
Yeah,
Lynn.
like you kidnap somebody and then you get all butthurt because she deceives you in order to get away. Like, talk about entitlement.
To be fair, he's the king of Norway, so that kind of implies he's a Viking, right? So that's kind of how supposedly they used to get their women.
I have heard that actually they that female infanticide was fairly common practice, so they needed adult women in order to keep the population going, so that they didn't have to raise the girl babies. They just went and kidnapped adult women. So Norway.
Yes. I have the impression that this is the kind of production that requires hats with wings on and horns and things, just entirely historically accurate depictions of these peoples. I think is very important. Lois, I saw a hand.
Yeah, I was just thinking the nice parallel that the previous scene ends with Neronis saying, men are all like that. And then on comes the king saying, oh, aren't women deceitful?
But yeah, it should be a good sword fight. We expect a good fight here because they both get hurt. And yeah, poor Clyomon.
Yeah, once again, he's in dire straits.
Yeah,
waiting for somebody to come and save him.
Mm.
Yeah,
and it's starting to feel a bit like a sort of folk kind of play thing where the person gets revived again, feeling very back to the wit and science thing that we mentioned before, where Elizabeth brought up the other day. That sort of reviving of the hero moment that is really fun. Any additional thoughts? We're still only halfway through.
Yes, Neronis seems to be she's the one he needs to heal her. She seems to be the matron, the nursing sister, the woman who can fix people. I mean, admittedly, it was only seasickness that was his problem last time, and this is a flesh wound. I mean, I don't feel, to be brutally frank with you, that Clyomon is necessarily mortally wounded.
Well, that's I think a question for the actor, isn't it, to decide? And the production. I feel greatly afraid for his life.
Well, I think I think he would like you to feel that. Also, it's interesting that the king calls him a boy.
Mm.
If we're talking in terms of the ages of these people.
Mm.
I mean, that does go with a gap year quest.
Yes, they're all interrailing, aren't they?
but isn't it also, a boy is also a derogatory term in this respect as well?
Well, you did get the impression that King Thrasellus is probably, a big older man kind of figure.
Yeah.
He has that sort of brute mentality quality to him, doesn't he?
Bryan Blessed once again.
Yeah, well, I think we've definitely got our Bryan Blessed for this, haven't we? Not suggesting that Bryan in real life is like this. Just he's an actor. Fabulous man. Okay. Any additional thoughts before? Because he's, the scene isn't over. He's lying there. He's calling. He's calling on Neronis to come and heal him. And who enters? But enter Father Question mark whether that's further or father or father or what? Father
Oh,
Corin,
father.
the shepherd, and his dog.
A plague on thee for a cur! Ah, driven me sheep above from the flock! Ah, thief! Art thou not ashamed? I'll beat thee like a stock! I've been a zeeking here above 4 miles and more. I'll tell you what, chav the bravest lad of Jack the Courtnall that ever was ye before. Oh, the whorecup is plaguely well loved in our town. And you had Zine go to church before my wife in her holy day gown. You would have blessed yourselves to have seen it. She went even cheek by jowl with our head countryman's wife, brother to my neighbour Michael. You know, had dwells by my master justice over by the water on the other side of the hill. I'm sure you know it, between my neighbour Filcher's farmhouse and the windmill. But Anya did see how Joan Jenkin and Gillian Jiffrey loves my boy Jack. Why, 'tis a marvelation to see. Joan did so baste Gillian's back that my God's bones I left till to piss myself when just saw it. And the maids in the town falls out for my boy. But when the young men know it, they shall be so jealous over them that chum in doubt I shall not keep Jack my boy till 7 years go about. Well, chum near the veer warm a sheep. Jave sorted these 4 mile, which I'll home and send Jack forth to seek it for another while, eh? But bones of God, man, stay. Jesus, what means lie here?
Ah, good father, help me.
Nay, who there by your leave? Shall not come near. What, another? Bones of me, he's either killed nor dead. Nay, farewell, Bordy Pence, you're a knave, goes death, and doth bleed.
I bleed indeed, father, so grievous my wounds be, that if I have not speedy help, long life is not in me.
Oh, why, what art thou? Or how chanced thou camest in this case?
Ah, father, that dead corpse which thou seest there in place, he was a knight and mine enemy, whom here I have slain, and I a gentleman, whom he hath wounded with marvellous pain. Now thou knowest the truth. Good father, show some courtesy, to stop my bleeding wounds, that I may find some remedy, my life to preserve, if I possibly may.
Well, here are you, gentlemen. True, have you know this, by the way, Chamba Father Corin the shepherd? Cham no syringe your eye, but she'll do what she can for you. Shall we're loath to see you die. No, say you by this. Had she done you any ease?
Father, thy willingness of a certainty doth much me please, but, good father, lend me thy helping hand once again, to bury this same knight whom I here have slain, although he was to me a most deadly enemy, yet to leave his body unburied were great cruelty.
Bones of God, man, our priest dwells too far away.
Well, then, for want of a priest, the priest's part I will play. Therefore, father, help me to lay his body aright, for I will bestow a hearse of him, because he was a knight. If thou wilt go to a cottage hereby, and fetch such things as I lack.
That child, gentlemen. By and by return back.
And Corin exits.
But, Clyomon, pluck up thy heart with courage once again, and I will set over his dead corse a sign of victory, my golden shield and sword, but with the point hanging down, as one conquered and lost his renown. Writing likewise thereupon, that all passengers may see, that the false knight of Norway here lieth, slain by me.
Enter Corin with a hearse.
Lo, gentlemen, to brought such things as are requisite for the same.
Then, good father, help me, the hearse for to frame. Chat shall, gentlemen, in the best order.
Oh, yes,
No,
that must be a miss, yeah.
Chat shall, gentlemen, in the best order that you may. Oh, that our parish priest were here, that you might hear him say, for by God's bones, and there be any noise in the church, in the midst of the prayers he'll swear, oh, he loves hunting alive. Would to God you were acquainted with him a while. And as for a woman, Well, shall say nothing, but shall know whom he did beguile.
Well, Father Corin, let that pass. We have nothing to do with all. And now that this is done, come, reward thy pain I shall. There is part of a recompense, thy goodwill to requite.
Why, my troth, to thank you. I'm bound to pray for you day and night. And now shall even home and send Jack, my boy, this sheep to seek out.
Tell me, Father, ere thou goest, didst thou not see a lady wandering hereabout?
A lady? No, good faith, gentlemen, jaws or none. Shall tell you plain.
Well, then, farewell, Father, grand messes for thy pain. Ah, Neronis, where thou art and where thou dost abide, thy Clyomon to seek thee out shall rest no time nor tide. Thy foe here lieth slain on ground, and living is thy friend, whose travel till thee see thy face shall never have an end. My ensign here I leave behind, these verses writ shall yield a true report of traitors slain by the knight, the golden shield. And as an unknown to any wight, to travel I betake, until I may her find, whose sight my heart may joyful make.
And having said he's going to write a really nice blog post about this incident, he exits. I think, Helen, you might be right there in the sense that he's going, I'm dying, help by my wounds. Oh, I'm fine, let's cosplay a funeral. Within a few lines, he's just going, yeah, I'm okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, he gets a Band-Aid and he's fixed.
Yeah, a little plaster, I'd love that. No, I'm dying. Alan, I see a hand.
Yeah, page 37. I'm not quite sure why Clammy is giving a speech. I think that's a mistyping. I thought I'd mentioned that when I proofed it, but
sorry, where? What?
Page 37.
I don't have that page numbering. Just give me a.
Oh yes, there's one of the Clyomons has become a Clamydes, but nobody noticed as we went through it.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't pick up my cue on that one because I was.
All right. Yeah. No, it is now adjusted.
Oh, you did notice. That was clever. Nobody else did.
Yeah. Anyway, 2 points that is now noted. Things about the scene. What happens? Any additional thoughts about Corin doing a bit of entering with a hearse, doing a bit of a funeral thing there. Always fun. Lois.
Yeah, well, obviously the dog. I mean, this must be I assume this is the trained dog, and that Corin is one of these people that goes around doing a one-man show with a dog, but maybe not. I doubt that this is an actor dressed as a dog. It's a lovely thing because he talks to the dog, doesn't he? I mean, he tells the dog how happy he is with his new servant and so on. I don't know what the dog does.
Yeah, it's a great bit of business. I'm sure. It works really well. And it doesn't matter what the dog does. You can still play to it. The dog can be doing all sorts of business, and you can still play the scene. Francis.
Yeah, I'm wondering about this hearse that Corin has handy back home. What would it be exactly? Would it just be a sort of hand cart or something? Or
Helen may have an answer.
Yeah, there are 2 meanings to hearse. There is the vehicle, the handcart, the whatever, in which the coffin is placed, or it can mean the structure of a tomb. So a body enhearsed in clay or whatever. So it can also mean the structure. And I think here, he's probably bringing both a handcart and some timber, and they're putting up some sort of structure around the body rather than digging a hole for it.
Well, I was just thinking, if it's a handcart, then Corin can pull the body off stage at the end of the scene.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably...
they could use a trap, of course.
No. Yeah, I think the body has to stay. Sorry about that. I've read ahead.
Oh, have you? All sorts of questions. All sorts of things then, which we will leave it there for the moment then, on that point. Other thoughts about the scene?
It's not really a thought about the scene, but you had questioned Father Corin, and he calls himself Father, and so does Night Boy. I forget which scene he is.
Rona's called him Father at one point in the previous scene.
Sorry, I didn't hear Dan. You were saying something.
Just confirming what Aliki was saying there. I refer to him as Father many, many times.
So it just means that he's old, I think.
Yes, well, he explicitly states he's not a priest, so because he's talking about what the priest would do. So it's he's not a clergyman,
And some time has obviously passed because his boy Jack, who is presumably Neronis, is proving a great hit with the local ladies
overnight.
Although one wonders how much that might be his own fantasy, since who is a hit with the local ladies is about his favorite topic of conversation.
And it has that lovely structural point of he mentions Jack, and the next line Clyomon says, "Oh, by the way, have you seen any women wandering around?" Is it nope.
But Jack, he also. He's thinking very much of Jack as his apprentice. I shall not keep Jack my boy till 7 years go about. He's not going to last a full apprenticeship. One of these women is going to get him. But in the meantime, he's going to send him out into the cold and dark night to seek for sheep.
Well,
the sheep that was lost.
What's the point of having an apprentice if you don't send him out into the cold, dark night?
To do all the really rubbish jobs. That's what apprentices are for. Any additional thoughts? Anything different before we go into scene 18? Francis?
Just comment. Corin seems to be enjoying all these ladies of the town vicariously through Jack. He's enjoying imagining, all the, hanky-panky he's going to be getting up to. I'm assuming Corin's a bit too old for that sort of activity now.
Yes, he's a lech.
Yeah. He's a lech. He does say that he's involved with one of the women in one.
Oh, I missed that.
He says something about the dairymaid and what she and I do, kind of thing.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's all true.
Everything he says is true.
Yeah.
He is the most renowned lover in the vicinity, I promise.
Absolutely. It's
He's a lovely character, though. I mean, he's a real gem, is Corin.
Yeah.
I can just imagine Neronis, going into a room with one of these ladies and just saying, "Right, okay, we're just going to jump up and down on the bed for a bit and pretend to make some noises." Cool with that? Lovely. Alan?
I just wonder whether the Queen's men actually had someone who specialised in yokel parts.
I'm almost certain that the clown would have that as one of their staples, or one of the clowns would have had that as one of their staples, and would possibly be one of the reasons why they would appropriate a text like this. If it was in the original text, it could be an addition. We haven't. He's come quite late in the day as this comedy character. Okay, we're going to go to scene 18, which is very much shift number 2, please. We'll have the second shift of the session, and we have a little costuming advice here. So enter shift very bravely done up.
Jesu, what a gazing do you make at me to see me in a gown? Do you not know after travel, men being in court or in town, especially such as if any reputation, they must use this guise, which signifieth a fool to be sage, grave, and of counsel wise. But where are we to think you now, that shift is so brave, not running to seek the Knight of the Golden Shield, and other office I have? For coming here to the court, of strange marshes so named, where King Alexander in his own person lies, that prince mightily famed, between Mustantius, brother to the late king deceased, and the queen, through King Alexander, a strife was appeased. But how or which way, I think you do not know. Well then, give ear to my tale, and the truth I will show. The old king being dead, through sorrow for Neronis, whom we do hear, lover to the knight of the golden shield is, the queen being with child, the sceptre asked to sway, but Constantius, the king's brother, he did it deny, whereof great contention grew among the nobles on either side, but being by them agreed the judgment to abide, King Alexander the Great, who was then coming hither, at his arrival at the court, they were all called together. The matter being heard, this sentence was given, that either party should have a champion to combat them between, that which champion were overcome, the other should sway, and to be sought after that time, the 16th day. Now, my master Clamydes coming hither, for Constantius will he be, but on the queen's side to venture, none can we see. And yet she maketh proclamation throughout every land, to give great gift to any that will take the combat in hand. Well, within 10 days is the time, and King Alexander he stayeth till the day appointed, the trial to see. And if none come at that day for the queen to fight, then without travail to my master, Constantius hath the right. But to see all things in a readiness against the appointed day, like a shifting night for advantage, to court I'll take my way.
And having filled in some plot details of some stuff that's been mostly happening off stage, in which we haven't really seen almost any of the players involved with exit shift. This is, I think, possibly the first slightly disappointing scene that we've got of just going, we're filling in stuff again. Shift isn't doing anything desperately exciting, showing off his new clothes, but that's it. Anyone want to stand up for this scene? Go on. I've been mean.
He's the exposition monkey.
Yes, he is, basically. Dan?
Just looking ahead to see if the next scene is going to feature somebody who might be doubling from the scene before. And so once again, one of those fill-in scenes to allow for a costume change.
Yeah, I don't think there is necessarily.
I don't know Providence, whoever is playing Providence in the next scene. I don't know, because it's just speculation whenever I see a scene like this that doesn't really, really fit in a way, but just seems like very long and it's being delivered by a clown character.
Yeah, and it's about to be followed by another relatively long speech and a song to fill in. So it might be that. So it might be to explain some slightly extreme doubling. I see lots of hands. Lois first.
Yeah, it seems as if there's just too much plot here that they don't quite know what to do with. I mean, it seems awful that Clamydes should be fighting on what is obviously the wrong side, and the queen should be stuck with waiting for somebody to come and fight for her. And Shift says at the end, if nobody turns up, then I guess he wins without having to take any trouble, and that means that this guy can usurp the throne. I mean, it all just seems rather a mess.
Well, it's an interesting question, actually, how much of this is going to be important for the close of the play. I'm not going to predict or say anything yet, but I do wonder whether there's an element of, do we need this information? Or how much of this information do we need? So I'm feeling the blue pencil raising itself in my hand. Helen, I saw a hand earlier.
Yeah, the thing is that I think that the next scene is exactly the same as the scene before. So much so that they could practically run into each other. Clyomon exits left as Neronis enters right.
So, well, let's test that proposition in a moment, unless anyone's bursting to go. Lynn?
It appears that perhaps we're setting it up so Clamydes is on the side of the dead king's brother, and then we're going to bring Clyomon on the scene of the widowed queen's unborn child, so we have an additional reason for conflict between them. But why you would need that conflict between Clyomon and Clamydes to be so overdetermined, I don't know.
I've the first slightly bum note we've had so far, but at the moment I'm suspecting it's very solvable. It's very solvable as a problem, and therefore will not spoil the production. I don't mind having too much material, so long as I can ruthlessly trim it down. Any additional thoughts before we go on to the next scene? Lots of things happen in the next scene that are very interesting. We'll test Helen's proposition about the way the action flows. No one speaks. Okay, enter Neronis like a shepherd's boy.
The painful paths, the weary ways, the travel and ill fare, that simple feat to princess seem and practice very rare. As I, poor dame, whose pensive heart no pleasure can delight, since that my state so cruelly fell fortune holds its in spite. Ah, poor Neronis, in thy hand, is this a seemly show? Who shouldest in court thy lute supply, where pleasures erst did flow? Is this an instrument for thee, to guide a shepherd's flock? Thou art a princess by thy birth, and born of noble stock. May mind from mourning more refrain to think on former state? May heart from sighing eke abstain to see the simple rate? May eyes from down distilling tears, when thus I love I am, resistance make, but must they not, through ceaseless sorrows frame a river of bedewed drops, for to distill my face? Heavens, when you are revenged enough, then look upon my case. For till I hear some news, alas, upon my loving night, I dare not leave this loathsome life for fear of general spite. And now, as did my master will, as sheep that is astray, I must go seek her out again by wild and weary way. Woeful sight! What is, alas, with these my eyes beheld, that to my loving knight belonged? I view the golden shield. Heavens! This hearse doth signify my knight is slain. Death no longer do delay, but rid the lives of twain. Heart, hand, and every sense prepare unto the horse, draw nigh, and thereupon submit yourselves. Disdain not for to die with him that was your mistress' joy, her life and death like case. And well I know in seeking me, he did his end embrace. Cruel wretch, that Norway king, this cursed deed hath done, but now to cut that lingering thread that latches long hath spun, the sword of this my loving knight, behold, I here do take, of this my woeful corpse, alas, a final end to make. Yet here, ere I strike that deadly stroke that shall my life deprive, ye muses aid me to gods, for mercy first to crave.
And sings here, allegedly.
Well, now you heavens receive my ghost, my corpse I leave behind, to be enclosed with his in earth by those that shall it find.
And descend Providence.
Stay thy stroke, thy woeful dame. What wilt thou thus despair? Behold, to let this wilful fact, I, Providence, prepare to thee from seat of mighty Jove. Look hereupon again, read, that if thou case thou canst it read, and see if he be slain, whom thou dost love.
Heavens above, all land and praise and honor due to you I here do render, that would vouchsafe your handmaid here in woeful state to tender. But by these same verses do I find my faithful knight doth live, whose hand unto my deadly foe the mortal stroke did give, whose cursed carcass, lo it is, which here on ground doth lie. Honor due for this I yield to mighty Jove on high.
Well, let desperation die in thee. I may not here remain, but be assured that thou shalt ere long thy knight attain.
And ascends.
And for their providence divine, the gods above our praise, and show their works so wonderful unto their Lord always. Well, Sith that the gods my providence hath signed unto me such comforts, sweet in my distress, my night again to see. Farewell, all feeding shepherds' flocks, unseemly for my state. To seek my love I will set forth, in hope of friendly fate. But first, to shepherd's house I will, my page's tire to take, and afterwards depart from thence, my journey for to make.
And we're just going to pause there as he exits. She exits, rather. Oh, don't we just love a descending Providence? It's so nice. I tried to. I don't know where I put my swanny whistle. I was slightly disappointed at that moment. I resorted to the old winch there. We got
Rather than wench.
yeah. I mean, we don't know if
Winch.
we don't know if there's a specific song that's not in the text, but I did actually find that Dan singing those two lines actually worked really well. Actually, I thought that was quite nice. But there might be something more in there. Sort of Abraham and Isaac moment there of, holding up the sword, ready to do yourself in, and then something starts. Stop, do not. There were shepherds in that on the other week as well, in one version. Yeah, I think Helen's absolutely right in terms of the hearse is still on stage. That creates that confusion. And in fact, I'm looking ahead now because in my script, I don't know if you've got a scene division here before the next speech or not. But I'm sort of wondering how to divide scenes here now, because the scenes are sort of the same scene but different scenes, if that makes sense. Now they're flowing into each other because they're sort of the same sort of location but slightly off. So it's an interesting question.
This could have been assigned a scene number. I mean,
yeah,
as you know, there's no scenes actually set out here in the text.
Yeah, I'm thinking ahead to how we design it. And, there's one earlier which was in two scenes, but which I think really should be in one. And now I'm trying to decide whether this should be the speech that's about to happen is where the scene break ends or doesn't end, or how to do it. So it's an interesting question. How did you find Providence, Tamara?
I was trying very hard not to ham it up too much, but
I think you're in the wrong place for that one.
Different play, yeah.
But yeah, it's a sad moment. Lois.
Yeah, well, I mean, Providence's message is always read the instructions. it's all there.
Which is what Francis has also written in the chat. Read the small print.
Oh, yeah.
Get with it.
It's that thing where in a horror movie, you're always going, no, don't split up. Don't go into the dark room. And finally someone comes and says, no, don't stab yourself.
There's a noise outside. Let's check it out.
Yeah. Lynn.
Yeah, probably. It seems so unnecessary to me. Like, she could have said, but wait, before I stab myself, I'm going to read the inscription. Oh, well, never mind. It's we have a Providence costume and an extra actor, so we're just going to do this because it'll be cool.
No, it's even worse than that. They've got a winch. They've got a chair and a winch. They're gonna fly someone in.
Golly.
Dan.
Maybe just to get that set up from the scene before. So to buy some time, so to make sure that this person is in place.
You're assuming some level of health and safety directive. Just chuck them up there. Helen, I saw a hand earlier.
Lynn pretty well covered what I was going to say.
Lovely. Okay. Anything else? I think Neronis is a fab part. I mean, throughout, she, the moment she appeared, she's. Elizabeth said, she was a breath of fresh air yesterday, and she's really holding her own. And I'm hoping for a good ending here. Tomorrow there's. We keep saying this. I'm looking forward to the battle with the dragon, and I'm looking forward to the kidnapping. We keep setting ourselves up for insurmountable problems. So let's see where this goes. Hopefully, she won't just randomly disappear. Okay, we've got to say another speech which could be the end of this scene, or it could be a separate scene, or it could be the beginning of another scene. It's all slightly confusing how it functions, but it's Clyomon, however.
Long have I sought, but all in vain, for neither far nor near of my Neronis, woeful dame, by no means can I hear. Did ever fortune violate two lovers in such sort? Griefs are intolerable, the which I do report. For want of her, but hope somewhat revives my pensive heart, and doth to me some sudden cause of comfort new impart. Though news I hear, as I abroad in weary travel went, how that the queen, her mother, hath her proclamation sent through every land to get a knight to combat on her side against Eustachius, the duke and lord, to have a matter tried. And now the day is very nigh, as I do understand, in hope to meet my lady there. I will into that land, and for her mother undertake to the combat for to try. Yea, though the other Hector were, I would him not deny. Whosoever he be, but ere I go, a golden shield I'll have. Although unknown, I will come in, as doth my knighthood crave. But covered will I keep my shield, because I'll be not known, if case my lady be in place, till I have prowess shown. Well, to have my shield in readiness, I will no time delay, and then to combat for the queen, I straight will take my way.
And exits. So following straight on from Neronis exiting, and he enters, and he exits, and in a moment she's going to enter again. So it's interesting the way these scenes are flowing together, imparting a little bit of data. Is it just he's come back on to get his shield back?
Mm.
Yeah. He did a noble thing in putting it up on the hearse, but he's now decided he needs it.
Which I think is a lovely comedy moment that can be played, and be awkward if she'd taken it, wouldn't it? I will take this off my love, and he comes back and goes, "Oh, where's it gone?"
And we need that bit of exposition that he is, in fact, as I had anticipated, going to fight on the side of Neronis's mother in this duel to see who gets to be king of Norway, I guess.
No.
The island of strange marshes. I Googled it, and all the answers came up the Isle of Wight.
Oh.
Which doesn't make the geography any more confusing at all. Tamara.
No, I was just trying to work out the geography because
No,
Norway.
don't. No.
What?
No, walk away from the geography, Francis.
I was trying to figure out what does Clyomon know about the fate of Neronis at this point. I've kind of lost the thread of the plot. Does he know that she's escaped?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
He's looking for her in the woods so far.
Right.
That's because he's asked Corin.
But he's looking for a girl, and she's disguised as a boy.
Yes, I did.
And so the thing is, when they do this sort of coming on and off stage bookending, they can say hi as they pass. they can literally do that. It's fine. And I think that's because they work. I think that she might recognise him, but I think there's a way of doing that.
But he doesn't have his shield. How could you recognize him?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course not. Potential room for manoeuvre there. I'm thinking about Corin because I don't know that we see him again, but I've just been thinking about Clamydes because we haven't seen him for a while.
I know.
And I'm wondering if there is a Corin-shaped hole in his doubling. Is that the reason why everyone keeps coming on stage talking about where Clamydes is and what he's doing is because he's on stage doing something else to remind us that he's still about. Because otherwise you'd whack in a scene even if it's just him doing something random, and it feels like there's a structural reason for that to not happen. Again,
I
not
like
certain.
that. The Clark Kent hypothesis there.
He's put some glasses on to be Corin.
Bawdy shepherd by day.
Early modern phone box.
Yeah.
That would be a weird doubling, though, to have a clown and a leading man.
Not necessarily for the Queen's Men. You know, they potentially have quite a few clowns in their company, and I don't know. You know, some of them might be more clownish than others, if that makes sense. And frankly, if you are a clown, you can play anything. You know, it's more the other way around. The straight people can't do the comedy necessarily. Clowns can pretty much do anything because they're smart asses. You have to put your thumb down on them because clown comedy is a bit cancerous. It sort of tends to eat everything else because you're always chasing the laugh, but you can still do bathos and pathos at the same time. Yes. The Clark Kent hypothesis is apparently being stolen, so that's good. That's going to be used. It has a life elsewhere. Okay, we've got 2 more scenettes to do. So we're going to go back to Neronis, like the page. She's changed again.
Weary paces that I walk, with steps unsteady still. Of all the gripes of grisly griefs, Neronis hath her fill. Yet amid these miseries, which were my first mishaps, by Bruit I hear such news, alas, as more and more enwraps my wretched corpse, with 1,000 woes more than I may support, so that I am to be compared unto the scaled fort, which doth so long as men and might and sustenance prevail, give to the enemy's repulse that cometh to assail. But when assistance gins to fail and strength of foes increase, they forced are through battering blows the same for to release. So, likewise, I so long as hope my comfort did remain, the griefs that me assailed I did repulse again. But now the hopes begins to fail, and griefs anew do rise, I must of force yield up the fort. I can no way devise to keep the same, the fort I mean. It is the weary corpse, which sorrows daily do assail, and siege without remorse. And now to make my griefs the more, report alas hath told how that my father's aged bones is shrined up in mould, since Norway king did me betray, and that my mother she, through Duke Mustantius, uncle mine, in great distress to be, for swaying of the scepter there, where should I hear and say? Now that I cannot find my knight, I would at combat day be gladly there, if I could with some great good master meet, that at his page in these affairs would seem me to entreat, and in good time, here cometh one, he seem a knight to be, I'll proffer service, if in case he will accept of me.
And enter Clyomon with his shield covered, and strangely disguised.
Well, now as one unknown, I will go combat for the queen, who can bewray me, since my shield is not for to be seen. But stay, who here do I espy? Of truth, a proper boy. If case he do a master lack, he shall sustain no annoy. For why in these affairs he may stand me in passing stead.
Well, I see, to pass upon my stead this gentleman's decreed, to him I will submit myself in service for to be, if case he can his fancy frame to like so well on me. Well, met sir, knight upon your way?
My boy, gramercies, but to me say, in what country is thy journey dight?
Oh, towards the strange marsh of truth, sir knight.
And thither am I going, high Jove be my guide.
Would gods I were worthy to be your page by your side.
My page, boy? Why, what is thy name? Let me that hear.
Sir knight, By name, I am called Cœur d'Acier.
Cœur d'Acier, what, heart of steel? Now, certes, my boy, I am a gentleman, and do entertain thee with joy. And to the strange marches I am going, the queen to defend. Come, therefore, for without more saying, with me thou shalt wend.
And exit Clyomon.
As diligent to do my duty as in any in this land. Ah, fortune, how favourably my friend doth she stand! For thus no man knowing mine estate nor degree may I pass safely. A page, as you see.
And she exits as well. And once again, the exit line earlier is one line out. Seems fairly consistent there. I do love the stage directions. We've had several strangely strange as a term for just the different or poorly or what. It's always a slightly ambiguous term, but differently, at least, at the very least. Yeah, the irony is in force again. Dramatic irony all over the place. Thoughts?
So strange had an implication of foreign in around this time. So, you know, exotically attired, looking like he's from a distant land.
Mm-hmm.
It's the culmination, isn't it, of the crossing the stage in different directions and not seeing each other. So you build it. Oh, he didn't see her. Oh, she didn't see him. I'm here. They are talking.
Yeah, it's a really nice, actually, if we weren't stopping and starting, it flows really nicely, actually, apart from Shift and his slightly annoying distracty speech, which at the moment is not only being trimmed, but at the moment it's looking like it's just going. Because I think Helen's right, it ruins the flow of this sequence. This feels like a sequence, and I might put it in after this, or slightly before it, or something. But put it in the middle of it, I think is awkward.
Well, is it because of somebody's costume change that it needs to be in there?
I don't see how. Everybody's in play, and Providence could be anyone.
Maybe not when this was, or who they intended it for to be for that production. And like I said, because they're going to be put up in the winch and whatnot, they need to be called into place or put into place.
I say we've got so many actors in play. We're only using about 4 at the moment. I mean, it doesn't seem reasonable as enough of a reason. Doesn't mean it isn't the reason, but it just seems a bit odd. Who knows? Lois.
There is something odd about the absence of Clamydes. You were saying that before. I mean, Shift is there largely to remind us of him, but they ought to be having a scene together, or Clamydes ought to be having a short soliloquy saying that he seems to be fighting on the wrong side, but I guess he's stuck with it or something. Because when we last saw him, he was heading off in completely the wrong direction, looking for Clyomon because he'd heard that he was somewhere where in fact he isn't. And then that's the last we see of him for ages.
Neronis and Clyomon meeting together, completely missing it. Is there a significance to the name that she's chosen beyond the what is explicated in the script? Helen, I saw a hand.
That was the very question that I was about to ask. I mean, it's a very strong name to pick.
Well, given you've got Bryan sans foi or sans foi, without faith in there.
Heart of steel.
Yeah, it's just going at the once again, the name informing exactly who you should be.
But it is remarkably strong for a name for a woman to pick.
Well, it's her avatar, isn't it? She can choose whatever name she wants.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for someone who has been in total despair and about to kill herself only recently.
It's easy when you take on a role, when you put on the steel, the hat, whatever it is, to all of a sudden assume the courage of that person.
Lynn.
Yeah, and I think maybe the steel metaphor is more about faithfulness than physical strength. The expression "my heart is true as steel." So she is faithful to her master, who is the man she's in love with, as it turns out. So,
Lois.
Yeah, there is another play which will be nameless, in which the heroine, disguised as a boy who thinks her lover is dead, takes on the name of Fidele.
People have been so good. People have been so good so far. Losing at this late hurdle. Other thoughts?
Going back to this point that I can't remember. I think it was Helen was making that Neronis, she's about to kill herself, and then she adopts this steely name. Both her and Clymon's mood seem to turn on sixpence, and so in that sense, they're very well matched as a couple.
Again, we're drifting towards that conception of melodrama of you follow one intention until you don't, and you follow another, and it's absolutely straight as a die, and you don't see the drift between the two. Any other thoughts? We've got one very short scene to do, which I have not actually given out the part. Elizabeth.
Yes, I was just really intrigued by Neronis' status, because when we first meet her, she's a princess and she's got all this. I assume that she's been kitted out as a princess, but the last two scenes, we've seen her as a shepherd's boy and now as a page. And I just thought that added another element to her character, because she's now having to slum it, having to go about as a normal person, so much so that the knight doesn't even realise that it's her.
Yeah, she's basically been cosplaying for this whole sequence, and various cosplays, and how that changes who you are by changing who you appear to be. I think that's a really, really good point. Helen.
In fact, it's one less costume than you think, because the page costume is the one in which the shepherd first saw her and said she was too good to be his servant.
Yeah, she's stepping down from princess, page, shepherd, then back up to page.
To page again, yes.
So presumably by the end of the sequence, she'll be back up to princess. So it's a nice V shape. I don't know. For all I know, she lives forever as a shepherd, and that's the end of her narrative. I don't know. I don't know where this story going. I'd be quite disappointed if she becomes a princess again, frankly. I'm going to say for the final scene that we're looking at, it's very, very short. I'm going to say, Francis, you're going to get a bonus ball. You get to be Bryan.
Oh.
Yes, because I forgot to give Bryan out. So we have the return of Bryan Sansfoy with the head of the serpent.
Even as the owl that hides her head in hollow tree till night, and dares not, while Sir Phoebus shines, attempt abroad in flight, so likewise I, as buzzard bold, while cheerful day is seen, am forced with owl to hide myself amongst the ivy green, and dares not with the silly snail from cabin show my head, till Vesper I behold aloft in skies begin to spread, and then as owl that flies abroad when other fowls do rest, I creep out of my drowsy den when summons hath suppressed the head of every valiant heart, lo thus I shroud the day, and travel as the owl by night upon my wished way. The which hath made more tedious my journey by half part. But blame not Bryan, blame alas his cowardly caitiff's heart, which dares not show itself by day for fear of worthy wights, for none can travel openly to escape the venturous knights, unless he have a noble mind and eke a valiant heart, the which I will not brag upon, I assure you, for my part. For if the courage were in me, the which in other is, I doubtless had enjoyed the wight whom I do love ere this. Well, I have not long to travel now, to Denmark I draw nigh, bearing knight Clamydes' name, yet Bryan sans foy am I. But though I do usurp his name, his shield or ensign here, yet can I not usurp his heart, till Bryan's heart I bear? Well, I force not that, he's safe enough, and Bryan as I am, I will unto the court, whereas I shall enjoy that day.
Bryan as I am. I love that. He's really late because he's traveling at night because he's afraid to be seen. I like this, trying to explain why he's the one who left first, and he seems to become really late as well. That's the last of the short scenes, by the way. Tomorrow, to look ahead, there are 2 quite long ones. So, or at least that's how we've got them. Any last thoughts about Bryan? We haven't seen him for a while. Nice to see him again.
Yeah. With the head.
With the head. Still got the head.
I think this is far more important scene than the shift scene.
Yeah.
Because we need to be reminded that Bryan is on his way to Juliana. And we need to be told why he hasn't arrived.
Yeah.
Because so much else has been going on. He would surely have got there by now. But I do like the all the natural history.
Yeah.
It's one of these lovely extended metaphors. Well, it's not even a metaphor. Yes, I suppose it is a metaphor, but it's really extended, and it goes on and on and on. And these I love, but I won't say why.
Yeah. There's an interesting thought. I'm thinking in stage terms that there are moments where I feel like we just need to see some of these characters just randomly between scenes walking across. I just, don't forsake me, oh my darling, as they travel across, and so, and just to try and touch base with some of these characters, which is sort of what this speech is doing. But I almost feel that in production, I'd like to put a few more in. I think Bryan should get more covered in mud every time you see him, because he's stumbling around, falling down rabbit holes and twisting his ankle as he goes along. Alan?
I must admit, I agree with Helen. I do find this speech quite appealing.
I find Bryan quite appealing. I know he's a coward and a liar and a kidnapper, but he's so much fun when he keeps saying it. Other people would be brave here, but me, I'm just going to travel at night.
Blame not Bryan. It's the way he talks about himself in the third person that way as well. He's got self-knowledge, but he's also weirdly distancing. Francis?
It's a lovely speech. I agree with Helen and Aliki and Alan, but I just wonder what's happened to Bryan's enchanted power. Suddenly, he was enchanting these knights in the forest, and now he's afraid of them and hiding at night
because they're awake.
Well, maybe it's a thing to do with the palace. Maybe there's a reason why he's there. Is he has a geographical limit to his powers.
Yeah, it could be that. That occurred to me actually. Yeah.
The Forest of Marvels is fine. Outside the Forest of Marvels, he's just
Bryan.
Yeah.
Bryan with an I, not a Y. Lynn, are you waving?
Yeah, I think the place-centered model of the limits of his power, it makes the most sense. I was going to say maybe he's just out of sleeping potion.
Yeah, he didn't replace his batteries in his wand.
Something like that, yeah.
Lois?
Yeah, it's interesting that he says, don't blame Bryan, blame his cowardly heart. I mean, maybe this is the result of so much morality drama where you can separate out characters from their hearts and their minds and their appetites and so on. Because I mean, obviously, you can't really say, it's not my fault. It's just my heart. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting. We haven't really mentioned morality plays since the first session, and it's that sense of it's not really been touching base on morality drama at all. In theory, it has been because there's a vice, and there was at least one moment where someone was making their boast, Alexander. But actually, it's really not been dipping into those conventions very much at all. So it'd be interesting to see if there's anything else towards the end where morals live. They tend to live at the end of the play. You're allowed to be immoral and amoral in the middle of it, I think. But you have to work towards a moral. Maybe we'll find a moral. Okay, we're approaching extra time. Before we go into extra final thoughts, does anyone have anything else about Bryan or the latter end of this particular session that you want to talk about? Any additional thoughts there? Helen?
How have they got the hearse off the stage?
I wondered if that was Clyomon when he collected his shield. Or just it happens, somebody runs on and takes it off between scenes while someone's doing a speech. Doesn't look like there's a mechanics for it. Alan?
Well, Bryan's speech could be a front of tabs number, couldn't it?
Oh, there's plenty of opportunities, yeah. Neronis' long speech earlier as well. There's plenty of opportunities for distraction while physical things are going on. Lynn?
I think the tomb could be in the discovery space, and at just one point when we're done with that, we draw the curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quietly gets pulled back while nobody's looking. Okay, very much then. Let's do final thoughts. Play overall this whole session, if you've only been here for this session. Just general sense of things. Predictions of how's it all going to end? Is everyone going to come out of this alive? How many people are going to die? We've only had two deaths if we include the flying serpent. Don't think anyone else has died.
The King of Norway, is it?
Yeah, death of him and the serpent. But anyone else?
The other
Thrasellus.
The other king.
Yeah, we've had two dead kings.
Didn't he just die of grief or something?
Yeah, but Clyomon killed what's the name's kidnapper.
Yeah, Thrasellus or whatever his name was. Thrasellus. So that's the only on-stage fighty death that we've seen, and a couple of off-stage deaths.
Yeah.
So yeah, will there be more deaths? Helen's volunteering to go in first. Final thoughts.
We've got a new We've got a new baddie. I mean, at least we're assuming he's a baddie. It may be that Neronis' mother is totally unfit to rule the country.
We've got the presaging of bad people. We've got the presaging of bad people.
And Mustantius is...
who we'd never met.
I mean, it's the regency that they're arguing over for the future child, or possibly, I mean, if it isn't the boy, presumably Neronis steps in. Who knows?
So, as you're in the back, Helen, final thoughts?
I love this more and more and more and more and more. It's a great play. It's displaced all sorts of other great plays at the top of my list.
This is the problem, isn't it? We make a list, we check it twice, and then suddenly something else pops in, and we don't know which is naughty and nice. So, Lois, final thoughts?
Yeah, just that I can see it enchanting an audience. Yes.
Yes, as the week goes on, we run out of superlatives. Lynn, any thoughts or questions or things?
Well, I suppose I'll be the contrarian today. It's beginning to lose me a little. I'm having a hard time keeping the threads sorted out. So it's maybe getting to be a little much for me today. So we'll see how it all comes together tomorrow.
I can feel that this is the section where I'm thinking a little blue pencil would go a long way. Also, where our stopping and starting is not helping the narrative either, because I think these scenes, a lot of these are basically one sequence of action.
And that was actually a really, I think, useful observation that Elizabeth made about a different play, that it seems to be dragging. And I have seen in production early modern plays where they cut the scenes down kind of more surgically, but then the shifts in between the scenes seem to take forever. So that's just sort of a warning for, if you're going to get this on this feet, that the scenes just need to practically overlap in order for it to sort of drag 3/4 of the way through.
Yes, the last thing we need are scene changes. They've got to happen while people are talking, and keep the mechanics going. Alan, final thoughts?
Yeah, I must admit, thinking on the staging, I don't think you do need much in the way of movable props. Basically, you've got generic forests throughout. And one thing I was thinking was you could almost choreograph it as, so-and-so enters left and then leaves left, the next person enters right, and almost overlapping to keep the momentum.
Yeah,
because that's what it needs. It needs the momentum to keep it going.
And also, we need to make sure the audience doesn't feel like they need to know certain plot points, and which plot points just can whiz past, and which points do they need to just hold on to, which we'll know more about tomorrow, I think, as well. I'm thinking in my head, we need to definitely have to have the hazer and the possibly a dry ice machine when we get to the marshes, because then we don't have to change the trees. Just put a low level of fog, just to make sure they know that's marshes basically, and a few reeds at the front of the stage. That'll do. That's your scene change. Francis, welcome to the throng. How have you found it so far?
I agree with Lynn that today's session, it's dragged a bit. But that being said, I think the play's a delight. And I disagree with something Helen and Alan said yesterday, that it doesn't read off the page well. I disagree. I think it does, because I haven't participated in the previous sessions, and so I was just reading it myself. But then I was probably reading it more slowly than I would have done had I been doing it on camera, so to speak. But I think it reads very well most of the time.
Alan wants to jump back in.
Yeah, and Helen did the original creation of the text from the original. I proofed it. So to a certain extent, I was looking at it very, very slowly when I was reading it through first time. I haven't looked at it again since, until reading it now, because I've been doing my best to forget what happens in the spirit of the way we do things.
Oh, Helen wants to jump in as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems that I was having was that the text that I had was incredibly confusing, because the speech headings are all over the place. Because, I mean, Corin can be shepherd, can be Corin, can be... Neronis is quite often called page rather than Neronis. And actually I had to set to with this play and try and work out what on earth was going on. And it was not easy, I can tell you.
And this is why I outsource this one to other people.
So, I mean, this is possibly why I said it was difficult on the page. Because when I got it, it was.
There are additional editorial things that can make this an easier read, I think is perhaps the take on that. Aliki, how have you found it?
It's odd, isn't it? I mean, we talked at the beginning about how to do it and what the tone would be. And the more we get along into it, the more I think of it as a comedy rather than an adventure. I think, all of these missed recognitions in this just cry out for treating it as a comedy. I find the verse form difficult. There's something about the relentlessness of its rhythm that makes it really hard to humanize when you're trying to speak a character. It makes it hard to break up the lines into thoughts and not into, doggerel.
It is definitely one. I said the other day that top-down rethink on punctuation as well. I mean, I don't know about Helen and Alan, but I when preparing these scripts, I'm not usually looking at the punctuation side of things. I'm usually just making sure the words are accurate. And I think there's a few times where we've tripped up over questionable areas. I don't think there's a complete lack of logic, but to it. But there's an awful preponderance of commas living in the middle of lines, which is to do with something, a convention not really to do with how we would punctuate it today.
Yeah, but I think that can be worked against, and I think you could have a great deal of fun with this as a big, daft comic romp.
Yeah, I think it's just we need to do an awful lot to make that text sing, and because we're just not used to it as well. We're just not used to it. But it's a really good point. Elizabeth, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, Robert, you said punctuation. So I instantly thought of the commas and how choice the commas are in this play. Because I love commas, and I think the readers really navigated the commas beautifully in this play because it's really liberally punctuated. I struggled with the question marks, because the question marks didn't seem to be at the end of questions.
Yes, there are some that. Sorry, I spoke over you. Say again, Elizabeth.
The commas were choice.
Yeah, well, there is a convention of midline commas that are more to do with the way you lay out at this length of verse that don't necessarily mean comma, if that makes sense off the top of my head. I've encountered this before in Bale, where you don't necessarily use commas. You might just put a little extra space in the middle just to demarcate things, but it doesn't necessarily convey meaning in the same way as we would in a modern text. So sometimes these commas are deeply, deeply unhelpful. And sometimes they are, depending on point of view. Elizabeth, did you have any additional final thoughts?
Enjoying it as much as yesterday, which I thought was very much due to Corin. Yesterday was Neronis and today was Corin. I also really like the fact the mistaken identities of Neronis and Clyomon. And I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow because they don't know that they're living each other.
Yes, excellent. There is an interesting sense that a lot of this is carried by the secondary characters, actually. The two title characters. Okay, Clymon's been on quite a lot this time, but he's not. He doesn't feel like he's driving some of those scenes in the same way as some of the secondary characters are. That's not a criticism; it's just interesting. Dan, final thoughts?
Really enjoying the play. I agree with Aliki that this reads, to me, this is kind of always read like a comedy, actually, an adventure, a comedy adventure, much in the tone of Princess Bride. I think it does need to move along fast. I think that I'm not exactly. Even though the villains are pretty well demarcated, I'm not rooting against any of them. So I kind of like them all. I'm still sticking with Draco Malfoy and Bryan Sansfoy because you kind of still like him, even though he's kind of a prick.
It's not like we want them to die.
Right.
You know, it felt actually the King Thrasellus felt possibly excessive. That he actually dies. It feels like they should survive and be evil somewhere else.
Yeah.
And their ways.
Yeah. Sorry, Dan, continue.
Oh, just in terms of the text reading, maybe a little bit difficultly, not much more than some of the other ones that we've seen, especially not some of the early printed the plays printed before 1590, where you really have to read it carefully to get the meaning out of it. Actually, when people are going about the punctuation, a severe lack thereof in some of the earlier plays. So I'm not finding it to be a problem. I mean, this is just something that you have with manuscripts back in the day and how they're printed and what they decide to do with them or not do with them.
I think it's not a sense of being confused about what's happening. It's just sometimes I think we're tripping over our tongues, perhaps slightly more than we have in others.
I agree.
The way it's flowing there. But yeah, good stuff. Sarah, I'm afraid you only got one shift today. Apologies. We're a bit more evenly spaced tomorrow. So, final thoughts.
Can I just say that I really do dislike Draco Malfoy, for the record. I don't. He's not one of those villains that I think, oh yeah, I quite like him actually. I really, really, really dislike him. But anyway, moving on. I do like Bryan though. I had a thought about the punctuation. This isn't really anything. This is just an observation, which, speaking as an actor with no academic pretensions whatsoever. Honestly, when I'm reading this, when I'm reading any of these plays, I quite often ignore the punctuation and just put in the pauses where I think they should go, which sometimes does trip me up. Like when I'm, because obviously if I'm reading from sight and I don't quite know where the sentence is going if it's over several lines, but I do quite often find that it doesn't really help, so I just tend to ignore it and put in the pauses where I think they should go.
And I think that is an admirable trait. I mean, I say this to my actor, and frequently I will give actors scripts with no punctuation at all and say, right, no, figure it out.
Just figure it out, because you can usually, and especially, I mean, if you've got, we don't have this with these readings, but if you've got the luxury of actually being able to look at a speech beforehand and, work out what's being said, you can always work out what's going on. Well, 9.5 times out of 10. Sorry, did someone say something there?
No, I think we're getting something in the background.
Ghost in the machine. In terms of my thoughts about this section of the play, I do feel it sagged slightly, but I can't quite put my finger on why, because most of the scenes I really enjoyed individually. I think partly it's, for me at least, it's almost like, in spite of the fact this is a really long play, I actually feel a bit cheated. I'm feeling like there are scenes, there's too much being told to us, there's too much exposition, there's too much being told to us that's happening off stage. I actually, I wanted to see Neronis get kidnapped, and then I wanted to see her escape. And I'm not going to mention the winged serpent, but again, but I just feel, even though it's long, I feel it could do with being longer in a way, and maybe, you were saying yesterday about being divided into 2 parts, because I just, there's and that whole business with the extra plot coming in, about the king dying, and then the fight over the regency with the evil brother or son or whatever. It's like, what? I felt that needed a scene. I'm feeling slightly cheated. So I am really still enjoying it, but I kind of feel there's something missing.
I think, yes, there is an element that we've hit episode 3 of a 4-part Doctor Who story. It inevitably drags about here. So, and also it may be that it's just simply by stopping and starting so often we've taken the thing out. But also, I think you're right. There's an awful lot of exposition that comes from nowhere. It's not connecting in our heads with people we've met. The nice thing about the first session, when we had Alexander the Great turning up, and I went, why is this scene here? Was it did then explain, because the next scene, they were talking about him, and that helped. Whereas we haven't had a corresponding scene here meeting the person that everybody is talking about. But then maybe at this point in the text, do we want that? And when we get to tomorrow and we get to the final sequence, we'll find out how much of this data is potentially cuttable or keepable or what. Lois, did you want to jump in there?
Just to say that, I think it's partly because of the title of the play. You keep expecting the confrontation between the 2 title characters, and you sort of want them moving in parallel towards each other and towards some kind of confrontation. And then, in fact, Clamydes does largely disappear, and Clyomon has a bigger love interest, which then has sort of subheadings to it, and then finally, you can see Bryan heading to what is obviously going to be a confrontation with Clamydes. But it just seems as if this isn't the best way, perhaps, to distribute the material of this story.
Yes, we're drifting more towards today the history of Sir Clyomon, Knight of the Golden Shield. We're sort of forgetting about the other one, and maybe that's fine. Maybe that's how we sell it. We sell it just on Clyomon, and there's some other guy as well. Tamara, you are the last, I think, final thoughts to pull you away from the world of Harry Potter, which is being what's going on in chat quite interestingly. I say interesting, it's really boring, so I don't even know why I brought it up. Tamara, talk about this play, please.
Sorry, I will have to say in geekdom a little bit, just because somehow struggling to really get a grip on the play, and granted I'm going to miss tomorrow and I missed the very first day, so it might just be me, but yeah, it just feels like a really wacky Dungeons and Dragons campaign to me. That's the best way I can put it. And now that I think about it, that might be quite fun to actually to put on stage somehow. I'm not sure how, but that'd be quite fun.
They're all LARPers.
It feels a little bit that way. And one thing that I will bring up today, because I didn't yesterday. Now I know the play was only printed in 1599. I think it was probably put on way before then.
Earliest around 1570. That's the earliest it could have appeared.
But since 1590, there has been a festival in Germany called the Drachenstich, which is a whole thing about how it's the killing of the dragon, and they clearly had some sort of dragon to do that, and so you can get a brazen head in England at the time. I'm sure you can get a serpent on stage.
Oh, you can. I mean, I mentioned civic pageantry the other day. We in the last session we did with various royal entries, we got through 3 dragons through 3 separate events, possibly because it was the same town and they could reuse the same dragon. So people do that outside of the theatre walls, and I don't think it's beyond the wit of at least borrowing one for a few coin, even if they don't want to make one themselves. So, yeah, it's a real shame, especially if we think about later. I can't remember if it's Queen's Men or not. The Looking Glass for London and England, which had a whale and lots of effects, and by the time it comes to its later incarnation, there's no reason why there can't be ridiculous things occurring. Sorry, I cut in there. Any more?
No, that was just my main peeve. If you're talking about a dragon, bring him on stage.
Yep, and in our production, we will. So, I think I've done everyone now. Anyone want to desperately leap in, forever hold your peace. Otherwise, all that remains is me to say that I hope you can join us again tomorrow for some additional whiffling action. And thanks to all the readers, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.